Now, Lenovo has been a bit lazy in bringing the latest laptop offering to North America. Trigger-happy consumers may have already settled on offerings from other manufacturers to get their hands on the latest RTX 30 series. The 6th generation Legion 7 and 5s are getting all the press at the moment, but that is not the device I have here with me today. Thin, light, powerful, built well, fast, agile, practical, and I think it is the best bang for buck that you can get for a laptop right now. It is the Legion Slim 7, dubbed the S7. So let's talk about the specs on this machine. It is AMD's incredibly popular Ryzen 5800H with 8 cores, and it's going head to head with Intel's i7 10th gen. Ryzen is a faster processor, especially in single core performance. So as a comparison, my Razer Blade 15 Advanced has that same Intel processor. Now this laptop also comes with 1TB of storage. It has 16 gigs of 3200 MHz RAM. It has a 1080p display running at 16:9 aspect ratio and is running at 165 Hz. And most importantly, it comes with an RTX 3060 running at a TDP of 100 watts. And all of this is going to set you back roughly around $2,000 Canadian dollars. But with a little more, you can also get yourself a nice Ultra HD screen, so running at 4K, but it will be limited to 60 Hz. It's a shame that they didn't make a QHD version for the Slim. Throughout my review, I will make comparison to the Razer Blade Advanced, although the Razer comes with higher specs. For example, it has an RTX 3070, it has a QHD display. But you know what? For the normal enthusiast, for the normal, sensible enthusiast, I genuinely feel you can have the same or even more amount of fun or productivity with this device and save $1,000. Get woke, people. It's 2021. Less is more. So let's first talk a bit about the design language on this device. A lot of it has been brought forward from the Y740. It has a bottom which is still jutting out a bit to mind the exhaust. Speaking of exhaust, it has 4 of them. 2 on the back, 1 on the right, 1 on the left. It has its power port and a few ports on the back. Just 2 USB Type A ports on the back, 2 Type C ports on the right side, no ports on the left, just a headphone jack and an SD card reader. I must mention that the Type C ports are not Thunderbolt capable. Ryzen. You may have also noticed that there's no HDMI port here, but the good news is out of the box they do provide you with a Type C to an HDMI adapter. I'm glad they have it in the box. Now next to a Razer Blade, it is definitely thinner. Wow, that was really wrong. What I just said is absolutely wrong. Turns out that my love for Legion is clearly creating a bias and is affecting how I interpret facts. So the Legion Slim 7 is not as slim. It is actually thicker than my Razer Blade. It is a little bit thicker. I mean, obviously it's not that noticeable, but it is thicker than the Blade. I actually thought it was way lighter, but it is not. There's actually a very minor difference. I think it's less than 100 grams lighter, but honestly it's not noticeable to the hand. So in terms of its real estate, it is actually bigger than the Blade. This rear exhaust strip, this JLo styling, is exactly the additional piece if compared to the Blade. So yeah, I thought I'd get that off my chest. Feels good. Now taking a look at the lid, the Y within the Legion logo is no longer RGB lit, but instead it has this really premium pearlescent matte finish. There is that same pearlescent strip that runs along the exhaust as well, along the top of it. Now underneath, there's not much going on, and there's lots of little holes rifled under the components that need relief from all of the heat, almost like a mesh, which by common sense just means there's more opportunity for the device to stay cool and for that heat to go away. Overall, this device has a soft look to it. It's not very shouty. It does not have that look at me vibe with it. It is not a pretender. It definitely has a personality of its own, and it's very well built. There is almost zero flex in the chassis. Now that does not mean that this device is dull by any measure. Open the device up and you're greeted by this very comprehensive keyboard layout. Talking about the function keys, and they have a lot of functions here. I do like that they have the lock for the touchpad there, especially when you're playing a first-person shooter. The gun would just go off randomly because you touched the pad by mistake. They also have some additional media keys here to manage your playlists while you're working. I did quite a bit of typing on this keyboard. It felt so much better than the one I had on my Razer. It honestly felt like shaking hands with an old friend. It has slightly better key travel, which makes a nice satisfying thump at the end of every press. Now let's compare it quickly to typing on the Razer. I don't know about you guys, but I seriously prefer the keys on the Lenovo. The keys also have that U-shaped design for better comfort. I made less errors when typing on it, less than usual. For professionals who are making a lot of reports or, you know, doing a lot of typing, they would absolutely love this keyboard. Even for the number warriors out there, the accountants with a bit of gamer DNA, obviously, there's that numpad. Yes, take a good look. Those people exist. The bezels around the outer sides of the screen are thin, but it still has a large chin. Now the webcam, it is 720p. It is so much better than the one that I have on my Razer. It's so much more usable for your Zoom meetings or for your team meetings. It also has that privacy shutter, which is a welcome feature to have in 2021. Now speaking of the touchpad itself, it is larger than previous generations. It feels premium to the touch. Everything else is fine, just the clicks. You know, there's more travel to the touchpad than I would like, and the clicks, they sound mature, but a bit loud for my taste. But it's not bad. I got used to it pretty quickly. Now the touchpad is situated a bit on the left side of this device to make room for that numpad. And at first that was a bit of a concern for me. But it is still aligned well with the rest of the keyboard. So those of you playing first-person shooters, you should be absolutely perfectly comfortable. Now talking about the top pin right here, there's that power button in the middle. It also doubled as a fingerprint reader, which is integrated with Windows Hello, so that's nice. Now, personally, I prefer the fingerprint to the face unlock, which I have present on my Razer device, and it's a bit of a hit and miss. It's not very reliable. It also has this halo ring around it, and it has various functions to show that it's on. Also, it changes color when it is prompting you to use your finger to log in, or to show you whether your device is in quiet mode, in balance mode, or in performance mode, at which point it glows red. Now, when you turn the device on, the perky RGB in this keyboard comes to life. And historically, there was just one mode built into the BIOS, which is that rainbow swirl effect, which could be a bit harsh on the eyes for the more mature user. So they have fixed that problem, and they've built in 6 presets into this keyboard. But yeah, previously the user had to wait for the device to log into Windows, and then Corsair's IQ would take over, and then whatever that custom setting was done by the user would take over, and the keyboard would be fine, and you won't have to see that rainbow swirl anymore. Now the quick setting using that function key is not just limited to changing which RGB preset to go on your keyboard or changing the brightness levels, right? As you can see, there's some other keys highlighted here. So when you press function Q, you are able to switch between 3 modes. One is silent mode, which is going to be conserving the most amount of your battery, and it won't have those fans rev up to crazy speeds. It's going to dim the brightness as well, so this is perfect for when you want to save energy. So then after that, there is the auto mode, which is a balanced profile. And then there is the performance mode, in which that halo goes red, and it just, you know, opens up all the tabs of the system's resources, and you can reach the system's fullest potential. But the really handy quick toggle was actually function R. Now what that does is it quickly shifts between the refresh rate of the screen, which is very handy because 60 Hz is going to save you a ton of power, and then you can just quickly switch back to the high refresh rate whenever you want. Now on the mobility front, yes, battery life. When I was using the device on 60 Hz, with the keyboard backlight on, like on a medium setting, and the performance in auto mode, display brightness at about 75%, sound volume close to full. I had two windows open side by side, one playing Top Gear of Prime, and the other one I was browsing through Amazon for some stuff. In the background, I was also downloading a game, so the hard drive utilization was also high, I suppose. In that scenario, I got between 4 to 5 hours, and that's not stellar, but for a gaming laptop, which is again thin and light, it is not a bad figure to have. I also tried another scenario in which I had the brightness set to full with 165 Hz, keyboard light set to full, IQ running in the background. I was able to achieve similar tasks in about 3 hours then. And now let's slide a bit into the entertainment aspects of this device. For example, watching a movie or binging on your favorite series, the screen gets plenty bright as far as the regular standard goes. It's about 300 nits, so it's nothing to rave about. But if you go for the 4K screen, although you'll get 60 Hz, but it's gonna get as bright as 500 nits. Now that is pretty impressive. But again, it is perfectly fine. Let's talk a bit about the sound. This device comes with Dynamic audio. I had not heard about Dynamic. The sound that comes out of this device actually has a bit of depth to it. The settings within the software, within that Dynamic software, actually make a difference to how the sound sounds. Now, let's talk about gaming and performance. I had no idea how capable this device would turn out to be. Every game I threw at it, the RTX 3060 and that beautiful Ryzen processor just gobbled everything up. I ran some benchmarks against the 8-core i7 and RTX 3070 in my Razer, which also had more RAM and VRAM, mind you. And the performance of this was actually not far from that of the Razer. Forza was pushing out near about 120 frames. Call of Duty throughout my game was giving me roughly around 80 frames. And Horizon Zero Dawn was giving me somewhere around 73 frames. And Gears 5 was running at around 70 frames. Red Dead Redemption, however, gave me somewhere in between 50 and 60 frames. But you have to remember that all of these benchmarks were done at the highest setting. And there were no sudden frame drops. There was no stuttering. They ran smooth. You would imagine that this performance would come at a price. This device would run hot and purge you off your fingerprints. Despite not having that fancy vapor chamber that the Razer has, the temps on this device were very much in line with what I was getting on the Razer, and I had no issues with thermal throttling so far. So I played Call of Duty on this for a while, and the temps averaged somewhere between 60 and 63 degrees, which is pretty okay, which is pretty good. The maximum core temperature I saw on this device was around 67 degrees. But what about how the body responds to those temperatures? Again, I'm happy to announce that where you rest your wrists on the left and right side of the device, they remain cool. The left and right hand side of this keyboard also remains relatively cool. The center becomes a bit warm, but it is nothing that's even close to uncomfortable. Materials on this device are pretty good. Honestly, I was genuinely amazed at how well this device manages heat and manages its performance in good balance. But the fan noise on the Legion is just so much more manageable. It does not sound whiny. It has this more whooshing sound in comparison to that tinny whining sound of the Razer. The Legion right now is perfectly quiet. And it stays rather quiet even when the fans ramp up a little bit, when I'm watching a show on one side and I'm doing some light browsing on the other side. It remains calm, it remains composed, it doesn't heat up all that much. Oh, and don't get me started on the Optimus experience on the Razer. I had to constantly switch between the dedicated graphics and the onboard graphics. In the Legion, I've had no such issues. It has been on an automatic setting ever since the start, and I never bothered with those settings. The system manages everything perfectly fine. And the really sad bit about the Razer was when I'm running off its onboard graphics, it won't even go above 60 Hz. So the Legion has no such issues, whether you be running on the dedicated RTX 3060 or the Radeon onboard graphics, it will still run at 165 Hz. The Razer does not feel smoother than the Legion. That's that. This laptop is not just for gamers. This should no longer be confined to the aisles of gamer laptops. This is for power users. This is for the professionals who like to work hard and play hard. But this device is not for those who like to take themselves a bit too seriously or those who are constantly seeking public approval. You lot can stick to your MacBooks and you can stick to your XPS devices. There's no loss on our end. So, which one is good for you? It's an unfair comparison, honestly. The Razer is in a different league on its own, but really, even if you have the budget for the Razer, I'd still say save the grand, buy the Legion instead, get a VR headset in that money, do something. But that additional amount of money for that QHD display or that RTX 3070, it's just something that you can just brag about to your friends or whatever. But in the real world, I think this is going to be a better companion for you. So out of this strange duel between David and Goliath, it seems David is the last one standing. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video, click that thumbs up button.